Hey guys, Zangetsu 134 here, bringing you another Kamen Rider vlog. This time we'll be looking at Kamen Rider Zi-O episodes 27 and 28. The second half of the another Zi-O arc. Yeah, I was actually kind of surprised. Like, these last four episodes have all been centered around another Zi-O. This time giving us some more backstory to Zi-O, to another Zi-O's user. I believe his name is, I forget his name. Shoot. So I'll just call him another Zi-O. So yeah. I decided to wait a couple days. Partially in fact that it's my birthday. I turned 29 today. But also because it's also the birthday of Kamen Rider. Yep, the original series, starring Kamen Rider Ichigo, Takeshi Hongo, premiered on April 3rd, 1971. So, yeah. The show premiered about 48 years ago, almost 50 years ago. It's also kind of momentous because Japan has finally declared what the name of their next era will be. For those of you who don't know, the Japanese have their history by eras, which is usually determined by the announcement of a new emperor, as well as the stepping down / death of the previous emperor. For instance, the emperor before the current emperor, his emperor's name was Showa. The current Japanese era, that we were previously in, and that will be ending at the end of this month, was the Heisei era. The current emperor of Japan is stepping down. He's not dying. He's simply stepping down because he's, I think, over 80 years old. He feels that he should step down, and his son will now be the new emperor, and the era is now going to be called the Reiwa era. I think I pronounced that right. I could be wrong. And as we've been talking about these last several months, as I've been reviewing the episodes, Kamen Rider, Kamen Rider Zi-O will be the last of the Heisei era riders, and so yeah, so the next era of riders will be determined the end of this year in October or so, whenever Zi-O ends, and we'll get a new Kamen Riders generation. But I just want to talk about that, just kind of bring that up. I thought about maybe doing something different this year, where like throughout the month of April I do other Kamen Rider stuff, like I'd watch movies, but it's really hard for me to get to those films, and I don't know, I'm not a big fan of doing films by myself. There's a reason why most of my other movie vlogs, I do them with people. I prefer when I do movies that I have someone else talk about it. I think I get better commentary out of it. Because like my Thor Ragnarok review, I'm not a big fan of it, just because it was just me talking about Thor Ragnarok. But like when I did Infinity War, that was when I really started out liking my movie vlogs. But anyway, so in this episodes, we see that Black Waz has decided that he needs to start making his own plans against the Time Jackers, as well as White Waz, as it's clearly getting closer and closer to the day of Oma, and he does not want Sougou to lose. While this is going on, Sougou is mopey as towards the end of his battle with Gates Revive, the two of them were clearly too exhausted to keep going. And in fact, as Black Waz points out to him, the power of Gates Revive is too powerful for him. And Sougou is more or less just mopey because of the fact that he has to fight his friends, while Gates is trying to strengthen his body as he gets used to his new powers, so that he can defeat Zi-O to avenge Tsukoyomi. And so Black Waz decides to create a plan with Wool, who has decided that he no longer wants to side with Aura and Schwartz, as he believes that Schwartz is up to something, as Black Waz himself has already figured out. And so their plans are twofold. Wool tricks another Zi-O to use his ability to turn into other riders to create an army of another riders using the powers that he has stolen, which we later find out he also stole another Forze, another Fies, and... Or no, he already had them. He stole another Geim and another O's off screen, which sadly means we didn't get to see more of Dan Kuroking. While this is going on, Woz and Wool trick White Woz into using the power of another Zi-O to steal the Woz Mirai Watch from White Woz, using his ability to steal Kamen Rider powers as he's in another rider. White Woz, in kind of a dumb moment, but like I feel like it was because he doesn't really consider Black Woz to be him, like, or important. So using his future note, he creates a future that says that the Mirai Watch would go back to Woz. And so when doing so, Black Woz comes in and steals back the Mirai Watch using that power, and he's like, well, it did come back to a Woz. All this is happening at some point. Gates gets into another fight with another Zi-O because another Zi-O believes that only he can kill Zi-O, despite the fact that both of them can only fight each other to standstills, which happens at the end of the episode with Sougou. Gates fights him, but at a cost of the fact that it's causing his body to break down, which Black Woz explains. Basically, the reason it's so powerful against Kamen Rider Zi-O is because it can compress and stretch time. It compresses time so that it can strengthen Gates Revive to be stronger than Kamen Rider Zi-O 2, and in order to get around his future vision, Shippu stretches time out so that Gates can move incredibly faster than Zi-O can read the future. In doing so, it's causing his body to break, as we see that he starts bleeding out of his ears and nose whenever he uses the power for too long. Eventually telling Sougou that the two of them are going to meet at this certain place, and they're going to just finally have their fight. Gates not caring because he feels that if he hadn't hesitated previously, Tsukoyomi wouldn't have gone back in time and died. And while this is all going on, we find out because the whole reason Woz is doing all this is because, as mentioned in the last episode, he found Tsukasa's name on the bus thing during that accident, which Schwartz also brings up as he actually originally met Tsukoyomi way back in 2009, and we finally get into what's going on there, which is more in the next episode, as the first episode of these two ends with Black Woz challenging Gates to a battle using the powers of Kamen Rider Woz, which is pretty hilarious because, like, Woz is like, "Rejoice! I am the rider who will protect his demon lord. I am Kamen Rider Woz." And I love Gates. He's like, "Oh, I guess he's gonna he's gonna do rejoice on himself." And of course, the two fight. Which eventually reveals that the only reason Gates did that was so that he could run, even though he knew he would lose, was that he knew it would run Gates down enough that there's probably a good chance that he would not be able to fight at his full strength, and that he would most likely die in a fight against Zi-O 2, Kamen Rider Zi-O, or, well, Sougou. But Gates doesn't care, he's simply going to go. And meanwhile, Sougou finally has it out with his uncle. His uncle more or less is like, ever since you came to live with me, I wasn't really sure how to raise you, and I've never scolded you. And so I'm going to finally do it, because Sougou basically seems like he's decided he's going to go die, as he believes that he should simply fight Gates to have it out, and so to finally atone for the sins of losing Tsukoyomi. But then his uncle finally is like, you need to stop pretending like you're okay. You need to admit that you're lonely and that you miss Tsukoyomi and Gates. That they were your only friends because you never had friends as a child, and you need to finally just admit to yourself that you are lonely. which finally makes Sougou realize that he's been foolish and that he is going to fight Gates, but he's not going to fight him to the death. He wants to fight so that the two of them can get their feelings out in the open. And so, of course, he does. While all this is going on, Tsukoyomi in 2009 sneaks aboard the bus because she herself is curious what exactly happened that day of the accident. When it's finally revealed that the person in the black hat that Sougou has seen in his dreams when he was a child that told him he was going to be king was Schwartz. And that he had snuck onto the bus, which is driven by Tsukasa, Kamen Rider Decade. As Tsukasa is curious to see what has happened through all this. And so Schwartz gets onto the bus and freezes everyone but the children and tells the children that he has decided that you are all potential candidates to be king. I guess kind of implying that some of them are some of the people that were turned into another riders, or that they had the potential to become another riders, which of course includes Sougou. And Sougou, being a 9-year-old, is actually pretty petrified. Tsukoyomi also realizes that this Schwartz has never met her, as Tsukoyomi eventually gets up and tries to fire on him using her smart Fi's Phone X. And he's like, you're a time traveler as well, I see. But you're too late. And so Schwartz, using his powers, tries to make the bus crash, but he instead takes Sougou and the child who would eventually become Kamen Rider Zi-O 2 into the future. Basically on the day of Oma, when the Grandizers would rise up and destroy the world. While all this is going on, Tsukoyomi, of course, gets saved by Tsukasa Kadoya, using the power of decay to send them into the time period that Schwartz and young Sougou and young another Zi-O had been taken to. This, of course, is where we see that the dream that Sougou has been having was not a dream at all. It was simply him misremembering what had happened, and I guess due to Schwartz's influence, he constantly had that moment over and over in his head as a dream. It's also a really dark moment because basically everyone on that bus except for Sougou and another Zi-O basically are dead. I think it's kind of implied that the rest of the children were killed during the day of Oma. Like, they were brought to the future as well, but, like, they were murdered by Grandizers. I think is kind of supposed to be, like, the implication there. And so, we see that Schwartz is trying to figure out who has the power, and Sougou, as another Zi-O is about to be killed by a rock, and a Grandizer suddenly stops time. And then uses his power to basically age a Grandizer to the point where it rusts to dust. Which, of course, interests Schwartz, as well as Tsukoyomi and Tsukasa, who are both watching this. As Tsukasa basically is like, no, we're just going to watch to see what happens, as we can't change the future right now. And so Schwartz comes up to Sougou and puts a strange pink energy into Tsukasa, or I keep wanting to say Tsukasa, Sougou's body, which causes him to pass out, as it implies that Schwartz placed something into Sougou, and in fact that he's responsible for Sougou becoming another Zi-O, or for becoming Kamen Rider Zi-O and eventually Oma Zi-O. And then he, of course, takes him and the another Zi-O into the past, which clearly implies that that's why Schwartz knew who to turn into another Zi-O. And so Tsukasa takes Tsukoyomi back to the past so that she can pick up her time machine and go home. And he basically tells Tsukoyomi that he's been watching Sougou pretty much as long as he's known about Oma Zi-O, and he's basically tells her, I've come to this world because I'm Kamen Rider Decade. It is my job to be the destroyer of worlds, and if I so judge this world will be destroyed. However, I do believe that there is some potential to make Sougou a good Kamen Rider, and so I'm watching to see what I should do. which I thought was actually kind of interesting about Tsukasa's time here. He clearly is just watching. Like, the reason he attacked Sougou in the first place is because he wanted to judge Sougou's character, and so he decided to investigate Sougou's life using his powers as Decayed. And so he basically tells Tsukoyomi that there is a chance that they can change the future for good, and not for bad, and that there is still hope, even if Sougou has gained one step closer to becoming the Dark Overlord. And so, of course, Tsukoyomi decides to return to the future, which we don't see until the very end of the episode. And so Sougou and Gates finally have it out, but Sougou's like, before we begin, I want to tell you that I really miss you guys, and I understand why you're doing it, but I just want to tell you guys that you made my life so much better, even if, like, you're after me to kill me. Like, you guys are, like, my best friends, and I just want to get everything out in the open before we have it out, which kind of makes Gates hesitate, which, of course, leads to another Zi-O showing up with his army, and meanwhile, Sougou and Gates are, like, really beat up. Sougou had been fighting another Zi-O because he'd gotten in his way, and Sougou's like, I have to go get to Gates. I don't have time to deal with you right now. And so, once again, Gates and Sougou put their fight on hold as another Zi-O tries to kill Sougou. Gates has finally had enough of the constant, like, I should kill him, I should not. And Gates basically is like, no, I'm not going to let you kill Sougou. He's my friend, and I believe he's going to become a good person. However, I will destroy him if I will defeat him if I think that, I'll destroy him if I think he's going down the wrong path, but I don't believe so yet. Basically, Gates has finally had enough of people telling him one thing or the other. He's finally gained his resolve. And so the two work together to fight all of the other riders that he's created, as well as Zi-O 2. And it's a really cool fight. The two of them actually don't start in their main forms. They both start off as regular Zi-O and Gates, and they use their various rider armors in order to defeat the other riders that they have already defeated, which is kind of cool. It's kind of showing that, clearly these powers are no longer going to be able to help them all out all the time. So here's a nice little showcase of what powers both have gained as they've gone throughout time, eating past riders, and eventually ending with the two of them fighting against Zi-O 2. And I actually really like the fight between it because, like, Gates is clearly struggling as the power is starting to kill him off. Both him and Zi-O work together to try and defeat another Zi-O. And so eventually the two of them realize, why he hates Sougou, but he doesn't want to listen. So he decides to charge up for a final attack, even though both Zi-O 2 and Gates Revive are pretty injured at this point and exhausted from fighting an army of riders. However, Sougou uses this power to detect the future to see where another Zi-O is going to attack. So Sougou basically tells Gates, I need you to get up there and attack him, and then I'll deliver the final attack. I need you to basically set me up. And so, and mostly also because, both him and Zi-O 2, another Zi-O, while they're weaknesses to each other, he's also weak to Gates' Revive. And so Gates uses the power of Revive Shippu to dodge Zi-O 2's or another Zi-O's attacks until he has enough time to charge up into his Gaoretsu form and deliver a blow that sends him into Kamen Rider Zi-O 2's King Giri Giri Slash, finally shattering the another Zi-O Ride Watch and defeating the victim of another Zi-O. With Sougou finally having it out with him, it's like, I get it. The whole thing that happened on the bus was my fault. It clearly was because of me, because of my future and what's going to happen. But I can't do anything about that. And I know your parents wouldn't want you to be like this. All we can do now is move forward and hope for a brighter future. Which caused another Zi-O 2 to finally give up his hateful ambitions and reject the another Zi-O Ride Watch, with both Gates and Sougou limping away to have what they thought would be their final battle. While the camera zooms into the broken shards of the another Zi-O watch as it repairs itself, clearly showing this is not the last time we've seen of another Zi-O. And so eventually Sogo and Gates try to fight, but then Tsukoyomi shows up and tells him that, like, I've seen the future and I do believe that we were wrong. Like, Tsukoyomi is finally seeing the error of her ways, and they realize that they have to work together with Sogo still to prevent the bad future, which basically causes Sogo and Gates to have a laugh because they realize, the whole reason we're fighting was because of Tsukoyomi's death. And how we realized it was foolish for us to fight, which I thought was really nice. I would have liked to see like the two of them like just embrace Tsukoyomi, like we're just glad you're okay. But so the two of them come back and they go back to 9 to 5 Dio, and they get their room back. However, they now have a new roomie. As Tsukoyomi gets a room to herself, Gates has to room with Black Waz. Basically, Black Waz is now living with the rest of the cast as he's now officially Kamen Rider Waz. And so basically now the four of them will be working together to stop the Time Jackers and White Waz's plans. While this is going on, the episode ends with us finding out that White Waz and Schwartz are actually working together, and that even though another Zi-O has been thwarted, this does not change their plans in the slightest, implying that White Waz has all this time been working with Schwartz, as the two of them have been working behind the scenes. The episode finally ends after that on a shot of Daiki Kaito, aka Kamen Rider D-End, with him telling Tsukasa that it wasn't fair of him to be hogging all the treasure of Kamen Rider Zi-O. So yeah, a lot happens in the second half of the arc. It's very much a build up to a final climactic battle between Gates Revive, Kamen Rider Zi-O, and another Zi-O, as well as us getting a lot of backstory on Sogo, and us finally starting to see the pieces of why Sogo is going to become Oma Zi-O, and like overall why exactly the events of this timeline has been set into motion. So yeah, I really liked this two-parter. I thought it was really interesting. I liked seeing seeing more of what Tsukasa's plans are for this world. Him working behind the scenes to thwart the Time Jackers' plans as well. Even though he says he's not going to destroy this world, but he clearly is going to. Tsukasa's that kind of guy. He always says he's going to destroy something, but then he ends up finding a better way. It was nice seeing Gates and Sogo finally kind of coming to terms with their relationship in a way that makes sense. I liked seeing Black Waz actually finally get an upper hand on White Waz. Overall, I just enjoyed the arc with another Zi-O and actually tying him into Zi-O's backstory and making the two of them much more interconnected. I liked seeing all the past and other riders one more time, just because we're going to get some new and other riders, as we still have a few Zi-O ride watches to go. And just overall liking the fact that we're moving kind of past the White Waz Revive arc. Like, we're finally getting a cap to that for now. And just overall really enjoying it, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what's happening. I'm especially looking forward to this week with the Blade stuff, as well as Kamen Rider DN showing up. I always like seeing both Tsukasa and Kaito, and I'm kind of glad that he's back, since it was kind of implied that he died at one point, as he supposedly died after the events of Superhero Tyson, which was kind of implied by Kamen Rider Tyson, because Tsukasa says that all his friends have died. I guess that's not true of Kaito, and it kind of actually makes me happy, because I would have been really saddened if Tsukasa's actual friends like Onodera, Natsumi, and Kaito had actually been died, especially Kaito, because Kaito's coming right at the end, and I like the end as a character, and I like his design. And just overall, I've been really liking Zi-O. I think they've really picked up in the last several arcs, especially giving more character stuff to Gates, letting Sogo grow a little bit as a character, and just overall giving us more mysteries while also answering a few of the smaller mysteries here and there. And overall, I've been really enjoying it. So I hope you all enjoy. Happy birthday, Kamen Rider. And I'm looking forward to seeing what the future holds. So until then, guys, I'm Zangetsu 134, and I'll catch you whenever episode 30 comes out. Till then, take care.